I Should Be Writing number 508, recorded live at twitch.tv.
But I should be writing. I should be working on my craft. I should be writing. I should be submitting my next draft. But I'm sitting home watching Doctor Who.
So hi, this is I Should Be Writing, the second live attempt. I am delighted to see Whirling Nerdish here and anybody else listening in the future, because that's the plan, to put this out. It seemed like a really good idea at the time, and then I had to stress out about Twitch a lot. But to let you know, I've improved the camera, I've improved the mic, hoping that all is coming through right, and I have not improved my area because my green screen hasn't arrived yet. Apparently somebody bought me a green screen for my birthday, I don't know who, and it's on its way, because I tried to buy one, and Amazon did that little, you sure you want to buy this? kind of thing. So, I'm excited for that. But anyway, this is I Should Be Writing. I want to say 507 or 508. I will get my feet under me eventually. Yeah, the lighting will be better, I promise. But for now, I'm just going to do a couple of questions because we haven't done a lot of feedback recently, and there's some questions that need to be asked. If you guys are up for asking questions in the chat, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to get to the emails. And I had a great weekend. I had a very chill birthday. Got takeout from a really good steak place, but I discovered the bad thing about steak. When you're in a restaurant, they bring you the salad, and they bring you your drinks, and then they bring you the steak and the stuff, and then they bring you the dessert. When you get it takeout, you get all that stuff at once. You've got a cold salad, a cooling steak, and sides. And it's not quite the same experience. Even when you were prepared for it not to be the same kind of experience, it still wasn't the same kind of experience. But, I'm trying not to complain too much during a pandemic, because it's a pandemic. Some of these are older questions. I am guilty of that. Yeah. Another problem I have is not deleting when I have answered a question. Let's start at the top then. Carissa writes, how do you handle the feeling of being overwhelmed or intimidating with the writing projects you're working on? I'm a discovery writer, and as I develop my story deeper, I'm losing the text here, too much rap. Okay, and I'm a discovery writer, and as I develop and get deeper into my story and writing, the feeling of excitement starts to turn into anxiety. What tips do you have to overcome this mental hurdle? Really, my advice is understand that what you're experiencing is it's like falling in love. It's like when you first get that rush and that excitement of being in love, and the person walks into the room, and you're so excited to see them, and you can't focus on anything else. And then, let's say you start to date. Yay! And then, 6 months down the road, when they walk into a room, your heart isn't going to start beating faster. You're not going to be so excited because, you get comfortable with people, and that's how love evolves. But not really talking about love. I'm talking about the fact that when you get an idea for a story, it is so huge and exciting and the best thing ever. And when you put it down, suddenly this brilliance in your head goes through the fallible human brain and hands to get to the page, and it's not as beautiful as you imagined it would be. And I think this is where a lot of beginners quit, because they think, if I can imagine gold and I put out nickel, then what am I even working for? So what you need to do is be aware that this is a normal feeling. Really, coldly, the answer is get over it. But I'm saying you're going to get over it because this is how writing goes. You get the idea, you start working on it, it's super exciting, and then you start to lose your passion for it because it becomes work. But that's the nature of the beast. So just remember that a lot of the feelings you think you're only you are feeling, and that every other writer really understands what's going on, that's not the case. I am betting that most of the anxieties you feel as a beginning writer, we're all going through. Even me, still. Yeah, it's hard, and that's why I find editing so hard, because it is the opposite of discovery writing. You're going back into an area that has been fully walked upon and treaded, and whatever metaphor you want to use, but this is nothing new. I try to make like scenes that are new, or if I have to do a deep edit, take a character in a slightly different direction, and that's kind of exciting, but really, it's all work at this point, and anxiety, I won't lie. And I'm not implying that you're not willing to do work, I'm just letting you know that what you're feeling is normal. We got hello from a listener of which podcast? Larry, I assume you mean I should be writing, so I'm going to answer it, but for the past few years, I've been exploring prose more as a way of rediscovering my love of writing. Finished my first novel, Outquerying It. Ugh, that's a whole thing. Though it does bring me to a question. If it's not clear in the submission guidelines, how long should I wait before I assume it's a pass? I would query after 3 months. And the query, everybody knows what you mean, but the query really says, hey, are you still considering this? But you don't say, are you still considering this? You say, hey, I submitted to you and on this date, and here's the title of my book, and I just wanted to make sure that it arrived and wondered if it was still under consideration. And if they've not gotten to it and they're a person of integrity, they should reply and say, yes, I've gotten it, I'm very sorry, I'm backed up, because almost all agents are backed up. So I would query at 3 months, query again at 6 months, and then if you don't hear anything, I would assume it's a pass. But I should probably ask my agent this, but I don't think a lot of people are just outright ignoring submissions if they don't like it. I mean, it may be a form rejection, but you should get a rejection anyway. And good luck, because that's, as you said, that is the whole thing, especially during pandemic, because the agents are having as much problem with focusing and all that as we are. Let's see. I have been, I had to do the thing. I'm still having problems with prioritizing. And I had a small project that was overdue recently, and I had to put my book aside to finish it because I couldn't focus on both at the same time, and I couldn't focus on both at the same day. And it was like hanging over me. And so again, I was putting aside the very important thing to do the lesser important thing, but at least my mind is clear. Maybe one day I will actually accept that that's the way my brain works, and maybe not take all the self-help people who are saying I'm doing it wrong, because I guess if it works for me, it's working. There have been another couple of questions about submissions, and again, the advice is the same. It's a pandemic, so you got to cut everybody some slack. It's completely polite to query after your submission. You know, don't quit when you do get rejected. We got a question in the chat. Thank you, Whirling Nerdish. A self-publishing adjacent question. If you can't afford an editor, are there any tips for editing yourself? That's a really good question. I would say run through, I would go through and do the spelling and grammar check in Word and really pay attention. They'll get a lot of things wrong, but they'll catch a lot of stuff you don't expect. And I think a lot of people have, put it down for autocorrect being wrong or whatever. But, I mean, it is a pretty sophisticated system and will catch a lot of stuff. Another thing you can do is find another writer and trade line edits with them. If you're worrying more about a deeper edit instead of just spelling and grammar and punctuation, then that would be a role for a trusted writers group. And if you don't have that, you gotta build one or seek one out. Talked about that last week a little bit on how to find other writers groups. But really, you gotta worry about you should have somebody else's eyes on it. And if it's not a pro, make it another author who will catch things that you will not see. Look for a crit group, look for a writer to trade edits with, and yeah. And maybe maybe be open once you publish it to editing it, because you can do that on the fly if you're only doing e-publishing. I have friends who tell me when they release a book, they tell me how many hours it is until someone emails them with the typo. On one hand, that's really annoying. On the other hand, that means that they've got a dedicated fan base who snatched up that book and dove right into it. So, that is something that's a problem I'd probably like to have, but I can't see how it gets annoying. But then again, it's also helping. As long as you're just polite, and I'm saying if you're doing the correcting. If you have any other magazine submission recommendations that would be helpful, read the magazines. Now, I know a lot of people are lazy, and it's easier just to go through a market resource and see who publishes science fiction. But you really need to get a sense of what kind of stories they buy. If you send, hardcore, depressing S&M science fiction to Escape Pod, we don't really want that. I don't care how good it is. We don't want it. It's kind of like that. You want to find the magazines you want, because when you say to an editor, hey, I really enjoyed that Ken Liu story that you published last week, and I think that my story has some similar themes or aspects, or never say it's better, but say, these are the connections I see with what you already publish, so I'd like you to take a look at my story. You're telling them that you're a pro, you've done your research, you actually like their publication for more than it pays me money, and the story still has to be good, but they will give you a kinder eye. I almost guarantee it. I think I have gone through most of my questions in email. If I have not, if you guys have questions, then please email me again, because I'm going to be doing better on it now. The dog has come to see us. Hello. Mr. Frightful. I was looking because I'm in the middle of my dinner. Well, I appreciate you checking it out during dinner. Are you ever planning to revisit the world of playing for keeps? I am not really. I was surprised when my editor didn't want to follow up. That's not me being full of myself. That's me thinking it sold well. But I think the press didn't last long. I had a lot of stuff planned out. What's funny is some of the complaints people gave me about how if you look at a certain character's power a certain way, they were overpowered. And that's something I should have thought about. And I'm like, I did think about it. I had a second story planned where, as Keepsy, the main character, realizes the scope of her powers, a lot of stuff goes really wrong. Yeah, I had it all planned out, and it's been 13 years. And the thing is, I've grown as a writer. And so I'm discovering that sometimes it's hard to go back to something you wrote that long ago if you've been working on evolving into different directions. I think about Stephen King when I say this. As writers evolve, their styles is going to change a little bit. And I read Stephen King when I was in high school and in college, and I still go back and reread those books, even though I admit that there's a whole lot of problematic stuff. But there's something about the way that man wrote that just grabbed me and wouldn't let me go. Remember, I was cleaning up my bedroom, and I came across my collection of Bachman books where The Long Walk is published. And I sat on my floor amidst everything I was trying to clean up, and I read the whole thing, read the whole novella, again. But as King has evolved, my tastes have not evolved with him. And I'm not even saying he's bad. I'm saying that Stephen King could usually grab me around the neck and lead me in any direction he wanted to very quickly. And, I've picked up more of the recent books, and they just don't do that for me. And I'm not saying he's gotten worse. I'm saying he evolved, and I didn't go with him in his evolution. And I don't know if I could follow up on the Playing for Keeps universe. Simply because I'd have to reread it, that's for sure. But, yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it would take a lot of work to get back into that world, back into that thinking. But I love that people loved it, and I loved it too. I had, the whole trilogy planned out, the horrible things happening at the end of book 2 as Keepsy goes out of control with her powers, and a lot of plans there. I probably should have tried to self-publish it, probably should have tried to write it, but I didn't. I just realized it's been a decade, yeah. Well, I'm glad it stuck with you after a decade. That means a lot to me. It's the same thing with the Shambling Guides. I've tried a couple of short stories. I've thought about writing more Shambling Guides and self-publishing them, but I reached a level in my career where I was thinking I could work to get another professional contract, or I could self-publish a book. I wish I were as prolific and creative as Ursula Vernon, also known as T. Kingfisher, because she has book deals with publishers, but she continues to self-publish her own stuff because she likes regular payments. Royalties do not come very often. I don't know how she does it. I would like to know, but she just writes a ton and self-publishes some of it, and she sells some of it to publishers, and that works for her. Yeah, I would love to be able to do that, but it's not kind of in my, the way I think right now. And I just realized something really scary. Wow, I hope this doesn't freak me out. I just realized that I wrote a handful of books that were pretty well received. They may not have been like wildly popular and high selling, but they were well received. Not a lot of people said bad things about them. And I've failed at getting any of them a contract for a sequel. Shambling Guide and Ghost Train were sold as a two-book deal, so I'm kind of counting that as one. So, did not get a sequel for Playing for Keeps, did not get a sequel for Shambling Guides, and did not get a sequel for 6 Wakes. That was the one that sold a lot and got all the award nominations. I could really develop a complex about this, but I don't want to. So, I am planning a sequel to 6 Wakes. And that is something I do want to write myself, and if I can't find anybody interested in it, I will self-publish it. Actually, there's a bridging story with 6 Wakes and the second book in the Escape Pod anthology that's coming out this fall. They asked for me and Divya to edit it, but they also asked for a story from me. It feels weird putting a story of my own into the anthology I'm editing, but I didn't edit the story, Divya did. Just so you know. And that is it's to consider a bridging story between the 2 books, and I'll see how that is see how that's received. Let's see, Mr. Frightful, I just discovered her. Oh, you guys are talking about Ursula now. Yes, Whirling Nerdist, The Twisted Ones was so good. Pretty much anything Ursula writes is so good. It would be disgusting if she wasn't one of my best friends. It really would be. But, yeah, she's amazing. She also has a story in the Escape Pod anthology, by the way. It's about goats. Yep, science fiction about goats, because that's how she rolls. And she makes it good. So, yeah, if you've just discovered Ursula, check out T. Kingfisher's stuff for adults and Ursula Vernon for children. That is why she has an open pen name. It's not a secret. She just doesn't want the Twisted Ones shelved accidentally beside Dragon Breath, because that would be very bad. So yeah, I did a couple of questions in the email, did a couple of questions in the chat. My intent was not to make this terribly long. I just wanted to start testing out how the streaming went. If you have any more questions in the chat, let me know. I'll give you a couple of minutes. But my name is Mer Lafferty. This podcast is called I Should Be Writing. You can find me at merverse.com, mightymer@gmail, or on most social media, I'm Mighty Mer. So twitch.tv/Mighty Mer and twitter.com/Mighty Mer. And patreon.com/Mighty Mer. I do an hour-long chat with people on Mondays for Patreon supporters. And you also get access to the Discord and all the archives of I Should Be Writing and Ditch Diggers. And I've been doing this for 15 years, so there are a lot. Actually, next month is the 15th year birthday for I Should Be Writing. Wow, my eyes are bad. I just turned 47. I can't see anything. Jalapeno Bomber says, I really enjoyed 6 Wakes, one of the most interesting and grounded sci-fi pieces I've interacted with. Hope you have a great day. I'm going to have a great day now. That was awesome. Thank you. I had a lot of fun writing it. I did not expect the response it got. I really didn't, especially since the first big review was negative. So, I was worried about it, and then Kirkus didn't like it, and I'm just like, oh, I'm done. This is awful. It's terrible. And then things started to go better from then on. But I really appreciate you saying that, Jalapeno Bomber. It's certainly brightened my day and helping me get going on that novel I gotta tackle, the next one. But thank you all for listening. Thank you all for trying out this Twitch thing with me. If you're listening to the audio on this after the fact, I'm going to be trying to do Twitch recording. I'm going to try it midday, and because the commitment makes me do it. Whereas if I say, I need to record today, I'll put it off and put it off and put it off, and then suddenly the day's over. That's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to get you guys more information on a more regular schedule. So, I love your questions, mightymer@gmail.com, and yeah, check me out on various social medias and stuff. Dog's about to start barking because the mail's here. So, I will see you tomorrow, I hope, and until then, you should be writing. Remember, you can support the show at patreon.com/mightymer. I Should Be Writing theme music provided by John Anelio. You can find more about him at johnanelio.com. This podcast is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license. But I should